Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to a conversation with us about AI. My name is Mike Nichols. I'm the VP and product lead for Elastic Security, and I'm joined by James Spiteri, who is our director of AI and ML in the Elastic Security team. And today, we have the pleasure of speaking with you about a really revolutionary enhancement we're bringing to the product that we're calling Attack Discovery. I'll let James intro himself in a few minutes when he picks up on slides here, but just know that both of us are extremely passionate about cyber defense. My background before getting into product management is I am a U.S. Army veteran, and I did defense in many places, very large security operations centers. And I felt the pain and managed teams that felt the pain of the day-to-day life in the SOC. I loved it, but there was also plenty of challenges there. And I think what we have built here that you'll see really starts to address some of these key challenges. So I think we've spent decades trying to find the answers to. I think we actually starting to chip away at those problems now. And honestly, the main problem is, boy, people just keep seeing the same thing here. This overload of alerts. You'll hear many of these different buzz terms, alert fatigue, things you'll hear that coming across. But the reality is it's real. I remember going into the SOC every day and not being able to get through all the alerts. No matter how large my team was, we couldn't get through every alert coming in every day because of deluge of false positives from other systems. The overall, the fact that just even investigating a really important event could take maybe hours or longer. It's hard to get through them all. And so what that means is we just have this fear that we're going to miss out on something because we're not getting through all of our alerts that are in the system. And it's not stopping. I mean, the transition into cloud, the advent of the exponential growth of data, more and more things that need to start being protected. So not only the cloud edge, but now we're talking about, other areas of visibility being exposed to the security teams. The alerts aren't stopping. They're increasing so much that they're just continuing to overwork the security team that is there every day trying to protect you. And, I always like to say that I think a false negative is so much more impactful to a team than a false positive. And what I mean by false negative is, an alert is there telling you there's a problem, but you haven't gotten to it yet. You don't know it's there because you're underwater over here in these other areas. And so the lack of the detection, it could, allow you to be compromised, allow you to be breached. And, these are the key challenges we've been dealing with for a while now, right? That we keep talking about this global skills gap challenge, the fact that there aren't enough analysts to hire to fill the seats to look at these alerts. But on top of that, I mentioned earlier that we're also seeing many, many people creating more point solutions, detecting things in different locations, each of those bringing in their own suite of detection technologies. And sometimes those things are just not tuned for the environment. So we're increasing the false positives. We're decreasing that signal to noise ratio, meaning there's way more junk than there is good in that stack. And so you have to get through all the hay to find that needle, which of course eventually increases dwell time. It means the adversaries can live longer in the network undetected, because even if there is a detection, it's amongst thousands of others that you're not able to get to and find out if it's there. So, okay, well, Mike, you're not just here to tell me about problems all day, right? No, I want to help you find a solution. So what can we do to improve this? This has been the ages-old problem we've been trying to solve, being able to use technology to help us find that signal, to help us elevate the signal so that our expert analysts that understand the business and understand our mission can do what they do best. They can apply their analytic skills to reducing risk in my organization. And we think that's what's really leading this new wave of SIM technology. So SIMs are a bit of a loaded term, right? You think of a SIM, and a lot of people go back to the early days of SIMs when we were using them, and they were really just big repositories that were expensive and difficult to manage and just kind of a clearinghouse of data. They were that SOC team's repository of information, really required for compliance and regulations, and of course for things like threat hunting and investigations, but they were our security group's place of collecting all that data, our data warehouse. That was sort of the early days of SIMs, and we've evolved from that. We've gotten to a much better place where SIMs have more brains behind the brawn, so to speak. They're able to actually do things like detect threats that might have been missed with those point solutions. This sort of entered that era of running detection logic at the SIM. You could do things at an organizational level, understanding trends and analyses of what's happening at the broader sort of group level there. Adding things like UABA use cases or the user and entity behavior analytic use cases to find things like anomalous user activity. And really there's a acronym, because we love new acronyms in security, an acronym for this sort of evolution that we call TDIR, threat detection, investigation, and response. The idea that a SIM has evolved from being just a data warehouse to now it really is a central place where you can find threats that might have been missed. You can investigate those threats and then also launch a response plan to clean up those threats in the environment. And that's the current status of SIEMs today. But there's a new era of SIEMs coming, one that we think Elastic is at the forefront of, which is implementing generative AI to accelerate every workflow within the organization. Not just a gimmicky chatbot, but actually including robust integrations and robust workflows into every aspect to make your life better, to make your existing team faster, right? We believe fully that AI is here to enhance our workflows, not replace our teams. And so you'll see today, we talk about many ways we're using this. And in fact, the key way to address the alert challenge, which is leveraging that generative AI to help find that needle in that haystack. So today, I'm going to hand it over in a minute here to James. What we're talking about is how can generative AI be utilized in your organization to take that big, giant alert list you have today and intelligently group it, prioritize it, and find the actual thing that matters in that, which are attacks, those correlated sequence of events that show something is actually actively happening in the environment that needs to be investigated and remediated, versus all the bespoke noise that's also within that SIEM technology. So the new way we want you, the new paradigm of investigations that we're trying to get to today is thinking about an attack view within the product, not just an alert view. Alerts become just supporting evidence to these overarching attacks within the system. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to James. What he's going to do is going to take you through the state of the art today and actually walk you through a demo of how this is put in use right now within Elastic Security. So James, please introduce yourself and take it away.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. My name is James. As Mike said, part of the product team here at Elastic. And just like Mike, I've also been doing security operations for many, many years. So everything you're going to see is really near and dear to my heart in terms of past experiences and making it become a reality for all our users of Elastic. Before we actually dive into the demo, I just have a few slides here talking about some of the things we've done at Elastic to help with some of the challenges that are typically associated with generative AI. So these are things like, there's this concept of hallucination, where you ask a question to a large language model and perhaps you don't get the answer you're expecting. It makes up something up totally. There's some issues that people face around thinking that it's perhaps cost prohibitive. So we're going to go through all of these today as well, just to talk about what we feel about it at Elastic. Now, the first one, and you're seeing on the slide here, is how do we help with hallucinations with a concept called retrieval augmented generation? This is a loaded term, but in reality, what it means is the ability to ground a large language model with the right data to give you the right answer to your question. So what that means is, if I ask a question, let's say in a security scenario about an alert I'm investigating, or a user or host or whatever it may be, it needs the right data to be able to answer that question, and not just what the model has been trained on, right? If I ask it about a user in my environment, this model has no idea about the user in my environment. We need to ground it with the data. And this is where retrieval augmented generation comes in. So the concept is, we have a data source like Elastic, which uses vectorized content, which is why we're the search AI company, because we're able to do that natively. And the second you ask a question in natural language, we know which of that content to retrieve from Elastic to be able to supplement it back to the large language model so it can give you the right answer back. And that's what's really important here. This end-to-end flow is all native to the technology you already have as Elastic users. So there's nothing else you need to worry about. We package it all up for you, make it really, really easy. And this concept can be applied to pretty much any data, which is really, really nice. And the way we work at Elastic, we're also model agnostic. So you can see here various different examples of model providers. And we try and integrate with as many as we can, because we feel that's the right approach here. Just a bit more on this retrieval augmented generation concept, because sometimes we also get asked questions like, James, what's the difference between this and fine-tuning a model, or a pre-trained model, for example? Well, in reality, fine-tuned models and pre-trained models still have disadvantages. One, first of all, to train a model, it's a very time-consuming and costly operation, right? It's not a trivial task. You need significant amounts of hardware. You also need significant amounts of data, right? And you have to provide all that data in. It's a very expensive, time-consuming task. Additionally, what happens when your data changes? In the security world, our data changes every minute. What are we going to do? Retrain a model every minute? No, that would be impossible. So this is one of the main reasons why retrieval augmented generation is so appealing in this use case. Plus, it can be run whenever we need it to be run. So as we integrate with things like our AI assistant, hopefully you're familiar with that, but if not, you see it in my demo. The latest attack discovery features, it's all run at the time that you need it, and not some background expensive computational task either. So this is just some of the reasons why retrieval augmented generation is so vital for this. And again, as the search AI company, we're able to do all of this for you in the background, and you never really need to worry about it. So just summarizing a bit about some of the objections that we mentioned. Again, hallucinations can be significantly dropped down, if not eliminated, when you provide the right grounding context by retrieval augmented generation. When it comes to cost, thankfully, over the last even year or so, these models that we work with, these large language models, have not only become bigger and faster and more accurate, they've also become significantly cheaper, to the point where for most of the day-to-day tasks, costs are very insignificant. What's also good is for all the model providers that we work with as Elastic, they all offer different variants of the same model for getting the right balance between cost effectiveness, accuracy, and speed as well. So in these days, like, it's become pretty, I would say, negligible, unless you're doing some ridiculously insane task. For our uses within the security operations world, the cost is very, very minimal these days. And we wanted to touch up on as well security and privacy. So when we say this, what we mean is just generally, we wanted to give some general advice here. If you are looking to use a product which is using generative AI features, security and privacy is very important, especially if that product is integrating with third-party large language models. And we just listed out a few things which we feel anyone should look for when they're trying to use a product that uses this technology. So some of them are things like anonymization. So if you are concerned about using a third-party service and you want to be able to obfuscate the data that's sent there as part of any request, this product should allow you to anonymize your data. That's really, really important. And it should also give you the freedom to selectively decide what you anonymize, right? Because you know what's important to you, and nobody should be making any assumptions here. And the same concept goes for redacting. If you just want to redact it altogether, you should have the freedom to do that. They should also, the product you should be using should be as open and transparent as possible. Like no black box approaches here, letting you know exactly what's happening under the hood. It's really important that you pick a product that allows you to do this. Of course, role-based access control is also tremendously important, especially when we talk about things like retrieval augmented generation. The last thing you'd want to happen is, if we take an approach where retrieval augmented generation is added when there's no role-based access control, if someone asks a question and we retrieve data that they're not supposed to be able to see, that's a problem. So without the right role-based access control, you could get into a pretty messy situation with users sending their context that they shouldn't even have access to the model. So make sure that whatever you end up using does implement this. Also, it should be very clear, especially whenever you decide what large language model to use. Hopefully you do have the choice with the product you end up using. Take a look at what their data training policy is, right? Are they going to use your prompts to retrain their models? Most people aren't happy with that sort of concept, and we totally understand why. But even the product itself, are they doing something under the hood? Are they collecting those prompts themselves? So these are all things you're probably going to want to definitely look at. And again, retrieval augmented generation as a grounding mechanism. There might be other grounding mechanisms, so that's something you definitely want to look into. What is the product doing to ensure that they're helping you as much as you can reduce any hallucinations there? So we just wanted to go over these as a general guide as well. So with what we're talking about, which is brand new, which is attack discovery, how does this all fit in? So before we dive into the demo, just this one last slide here. So basically the concept is this. Today, you have hundreds of alerts you deal with, right? And hundreds sometimes is not even scratching the surface of what some bigger teams might have. With a click of a button, what we do is we grab that alert content, we summarize it appropriately, we get the right context from the alerts using that retrieval augmented generation concept with everything stored in Elastic already. And then we run a specific prompt on top of it, We do some clever filtering. We check which alerts are actually relevant for us to retrieve and not. We send those to a model. And then what the output is discoveries, and there's mapped across the MITRE ATT&CK framework as well. So you go from a tabular list of several alerts to just a handful of discoveries, if you have them. Like on a good day, you should have nothing, right? That's the dream state. But we all know most often than not, we would have some form of discovery because our environments are typically have stuff distributed everywhere. So that being said, let me go ahead and pivot to the demo here. So I'm just gonna share my screen real quick. All right, so what you're seeing on my screen right now is the traditional alert view, right? And I want to walk you through a couple of things that we're dealing with today. I put myself in an easy position. I've already filtered out a bunch of alerts where I've deemed them unnecessary for today's demonstration, but I'm still ended up with 30 alerts, which isn't a big number at all, right? It's a very slow day for a security operations team. But what I really wanted to highlight here is out of these 30 alerts, they're all seem to be significant in some way or another. There's a lot of critical ones. You can see here under my host and user criticalities, if my host isn't critical, then my user is. So even with the 30, where do I even start? As Mike was going, like, I'm sure there are false negatives here, which I should be looking at straight away. And even if I just started investigating these one by one, it will take me hours, even with 30. And this is really what we're trying to solve with attack discovery. Instead of me having to go and investigate every single one, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot to attack discovery. And when that happens here is what you're seeing on the screen, it's a blank screen for a reason, because all we wanted to do is give you one button to generate these discoveries. As simple as that. You can select the model that you want, and you can have as many models configured as you'd like. So we've made this model agnostic. And then all I need to do is hit this generate button. Now, this could take a few minutes, depending on how many alerts are analyzed. In the interest of this demo, I did pre-run this, so I'll just show you those results here. And here we go. This is something I generated just a bit before the call, but same alerts, same data, same everything. And look what we got now. So I'm just going to collapse these so you can see. So from those 30 alerts, 23 of them were actually deemed to be the most relevant for me at the moment. And out of those 23 alerts, we generated 3 active discoveries, which means these are the 3 attacks you absolutely want to be looking at right now. And you can see we've tried to make it as easy as possible for you to not only see what happened, but what hosts were involved, what users were involved, the MITRE ATT&CK information. So if we just start looking at one of these, we don't have to go through all of them, but we'll start with one. You can see here it's saying, listen, there was malware credential theft on macOS host. There was a little summary here which says the malware execution and credential access attempt on host, this macOS host by user root. All the interactions you're typically used to with Elastic Security still work. So if I wanted to look at the host flyout, for example, I can do that. Same for the user flyout. So we've left this all available to you. But here's the most important part. We didn't just tell you, listen, there's this discovery. We told you what happened within that discovery. So a very quick summary to start. So listen, there are multiple malware alerts involving the execution of untrusted code, attempts to capture user credentials, and persistence mechanisms on this macOS host. The malware exhibited behavior consistent with credential theft and privilege escalation, likely as part of an initial access attempt. And you can see this highlighted in this attack chain graph here. We then go into even more details for you, and we tell you exactly what that malware tried to do step by step. We don't have to read it all today, but if you're reading it as you're watching this, I really want you to look at the language that was used, right? We're not looking at just different fields that were stitched together from the alert. It put this for me in very easy to understand natural language. So anyone can really understand this, right? What we've also done is we've made it easy for you to identify which alerts out of the 23 that were identified that we should be looking at are actually part of this discovery. So we do give you access to that. We don't hide it. So if you did want to take a look at those, you can, and you get the same again, alert details, investigation experience that you have on the alert page. So you can do all of this from here. But now you know exactly which of those alerts were identified as this part of this discovery. But we don't stop there. We added a lot more for you. So not only have we told you this is what happened, here are the alerts that caused it to happen, we also gave you everything you need to do follow-up investigations and also start the actual incident response process via a case or otherwise. Typically, finding the attacks is half the struggle. Then we have to start documenting, reporting, involving the rest of our team. So we've also tried to make that easy for you as well. So one thing we've done, apart from giving you the alerts table, if you preferred, we also allow you to investigate in the timeline. So if you're familiar with our timeline, it's a great investigative workpad that you can use to craft queries, correlations, build charts now with ESQL, which is our latest pipe query language. So if that's a mechanism you want to follow up on this investigation, you have it at the tip of your fingers with just one click of a button. So we added in all those alerts there. So we made that really easy. But another thing we've done is we've made it easy to interact with our cases and our AI assistant. Let's talk a bit about cases. So hopefully, if you're using our cases, you know how rich and powerful they already are. But because Attack Discovery has laid out this really nicely formatted discovery for me and all this rich context, I shouldn't have to type it all out again, right? So, or even copy and paste it. What I should just do is have one button to click and I'm done. And that's exactly what we've done for you. So if I hit this take action button, you can see I can add this to a new case, add it to an existing case, or send it to our assistant. Let's create the case for now. So let's hit add to new case. You'll notice we automatically populate the name of the case with the title of the discovery. We populate a brief description, but then the actual content from the discovery is going to end up in the case as well, along with all the alerts which were related to it too. The only thing I'm going to change here, let's just bump up the severity just to, we know it's a discovery, so it's definitely something critical I should be looking at. That's the only thing I'm going to change, and then I hit the create case button. And then if I view the case, just view it really quickly, you can see we get, the case was done for me. I have 8 alerts which are attached. We can see all the users which are associated, the hosts, the beautiful description, and all the formatting was persisted from the discovery. So all of this was done for me with just one click. Now, let's take it even a step further. So let's just go back to Attack Discovery. And I actually should have been here. Yeah, this is what we were looking at, if I'm not mistaken. So what we're going to do is now, let's send this context to the assistant. Maybe I want some follow-up investigations, or maybe I need some additional advice. How would I remediate this? That sort of stuff. So we've also made that really, really easy. So let's click on the View an AI Assistant button. And you're getting a glimpse into our redesigned assistant as well. We try to make it even better for you to use. So now it's a resizable flyout, very easy for me to interact with. So you can see the second I hit that View an Assistant button, we got the title of the discovery. I just realized I went to some other historical results. That's okay. They're based off of the same alerts and same exact content as well. But you can see it auto-populated the title for me. It said credential theft via malicious application, so I won't even have to put in a title. And another thing it's done is it's added the context from the discovery too, which is great. So now I can just ask any question I like. I can ask something like, how would I remediate this? And when you do that now, the assistant has all the right grounding and context it needs to ask this question. You can see the response streaming in there. This is also an addition we added. So we feel it's a much better feel when you get bits of data streaming in rather than having to wait for the whole response. And you can see how quickly that happened as well. This goes back to these models becoming quicker, more accurate, and cheaper as well. So within less than 2 seconds, we now know exactly what steps to follow to remediate this. So I hope you're understanding, like, end to end, this flow. Why Mike said this is not a gimmick, right? At every stage of the operation, we've given you generative AI to help you speed up your investigations and lower the risk for you and your organization, which is really, really important. Another example of that is, hey, we have this really great remediation advice. Wouldn't it be amazing if we can just add it to our case? of course it would be amazing. So what we could do is, with one click, add to our existing case that we just created, select, and now that also got added. So we got what happened, all the alerts, remediation advice. We could do something cool as well with the assistant. We could do something like, I have a saved prompt here, or actually, I'll just type it out real quick so you can see. Why don't we ask the assistant to draw out a diagram of this attack for me now that it knows the progression of the events thanks to the discovery? So we could do something like, can you create an ASCII diagram in Markdown of this attack? And now the assistant will start to give me that as well. And you can see it's streaming in there. It's going to build this really rich diagram for me, which then I can add to our case. And like, nobody should have to spend the time creating this formatting and just think that's all time, for lack of words, wasted, because that's the time you should be doing to then remediate and follow up on these discoveries, rather than you having to go in and having to worry about all of this manual work yourself. Let discoveries do it for you. Let the assistant do it for you, just like we have here. And then we can also add this to our case. This is really, really powerful, really impactful, time-saving at every step to allow you to lower your risk. So the last thing I want to talk about is, like I said, it's important that you have visibility into this. You should know what's being sent. You should have the ability to change the data, anonymize it. So all of that still applies. We can do all of that. If I hit this toggle between showing the real values versus anonymized values, you can actually see this was the anonymized content which was sent to the large language model. So we wanted to show you there and then what was actually sent. And again, you have full control over that. So if I just pivot to my settings tab here, in the settings of your area within Kibana that you're operating in, you have full control over the data that's actually sent, what you'd like to anonymize, so on and so forth. And you can actually apply role-based access control over this feature. So if you as an admin of the security operations team have set in a policy where we're always going to send in this data, we're never going to send this other stuff, and always going to anonymize this, and you don't want anyone to be able to change it, you do have the ability to set those permissions too. So that's what I wanted to cover for the demo today. Hopefully you can see how impactful the addition of attack discoveries is and the integration with things like cases and the assistant and all that. I'm going to hand it back over to Mike to wrap us up for this webinar.
James, that was awesome. Thank you so much for that. I like James was saying, I think both of us have been in this job for a long time, and this is the kind of thing I dreamed about when I was in a SOC, an ability to quickly tell me what was most important, because the fun part of the job, the part that people like, is the analytics side, right? Figuring out, why this happened, how to remediate it, how to fix it, how to stop it from happening in the future. What isn't fun is all the data munging and, kind of digging through this massive list of false positives to find the one thing it's worth working on. So now imagine a world where you have this happening all the time. Every day when you walk in, the first thing you look at are attacks. Triage through those. And now, much like your threat hunting workflows, remember, threat hunting is when you have that additional time, or you have that additional, sort of tier 3 expert who can go look for things that weren't automatically detected, they can dive in. Similarly with alerts now, you can start on the attack view, get through those. Those, as James mentioned, are your critical, highly important things because they've been correlated to show real attacks in the organization. Clean those up. And then what's left in your alert screen will be those alerts that weren't tied to an overarching attack. So probably false positives, or potentially there could be something in there that maybe is a single alerted problem that you didn't, other signals didn't happen in the network. But it's a much better workflow than what I used to do, which is sort by group by the rule name, sort by the highest hitters, those are probably false positives, sort by the lowest hitters, those might be ones that are true hits that are kind of making it through. That's a completely throw a dart at the wall or RNG way to find the problem. You really want to have a much more, holistic and procedural way to investigate, and attack discovery is exactly that. And it's part of our overarching product, which is Elastic Security. So just quickly here, what we're showing you is just the everything you get, right? The fact that Elastic Security combines all that revolutionary AI-driven security analytics. And we say that because hopefully by now, you see that for us, we didn't just tack on the AI word. We truly believe in AI. We believe it can revolutionize what we're doing in security. And we've embedded it thoroughly in these workflows with many more workflows that come over time. It's really one of the groundbreaking ways that James's team has been focused on how to improve the day-to-day life of people using our product. So now kind of reimagining the alert triage experience to start with attacks is sort of step one of this. Having that expert in a box you can reach back to in the AI assistant. Those things would really change the game for your security team. And they're included in what we do in Elastic Security, including all the rest of the sort of SIM capabilities you think of. And on top of that, we have what we call both extended and native protections. And what those are is the ability for us to basically give you XDR out of the box if you give us the data from your endpoint provider or your cloud provider. So for example, you're running a CrowdStrike. We'll get those raw events into Elastic, and now guess what? We can not only do all of our machine learning detections and additional, MITRE-based rule detections and risk analysis and contextual analysis. They also feed into that attack discovery. We've shown now we can actually group things that aren't just our alerts. Of course, anybody's alerts filtered into Elastic get included into that discovery view. So you can see it start from your endpoint device. It can move to a network alert from maybe your firewall, moving it into your SIM detection, potentially from a user behavior alert from a suspicious user's credentials being stolen. All that is now available to you. And we also offer a native control. So if there are areas in your environment that maybe aren't covered by an endpoint or cloud detection technology, you can augment that with our capabilities, or even just use us fully across the organization as an endpoint or cloud protection system. And all that's powered by what we call Elastic Security Labs. That is our expert research team continually providing first-party research. They produce all of our models that do our advanced detections, all of our detection rules, all stem out of that team to provide that additional expertise. So you get their help, you get the expert in a box help with the assistant, you get now this new attack discovery, plus the rest of what we offer, all built into that Elastic Security capability. So hopefully what we've shown you is exciting. I'm pretty fired up. I hope you can tell. We really, really think this is going to be amazing. And on this next slide here, we'll show you a few, basically one place to go and see what we have to offer. So check us out. It's go to our website, go to our security page, and check out our new AI page. And on there, you'll find a click-through demo. You'll find more information about what we're doing. You'll find what differentiates us with that search AI platform, why building on that Elastic platform is so unique and powerful for us in the security area, and how to reach out to us and start off your own trial or connect with us for more information. So I hope you liked what you heard today. I just on behalf of myself and James, just want to thank you so much for spending time with us. I hope you quickly click the link, kick off a trial, and start using Attack Discovery today. Thank you.